Good morning. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I'm Candace Prince with Green Hope Project. We are really lucky to have Lauren Anderson here with Earthship Biotecture. And so I'm going to let her tell you what her presentation's about today. It's going to be pretty exciting.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Lauren Anderson, and today we're going to do a walkthrough of 3 of our Earthship nightly rentals. So we did pre-record these, and we'll see the videos of me walking through 3 buildings and talking about them and opening it up for any questions that anyone has. A little bit about myself. I've worked for Earthship Biotecture for about 3.5 years, and I am currently managing our educational programs. We have an academy that people come and attend from all over the world that are really interested in learning about building earthships. And so in that academy, you're learning basically everything that we know and everything we can transmit to you in that 4 weeks about building an earthship. And before we get started, I do just want to kind of go over, where we are located and where these videos are being filmed. So we are just outside the town of Taos, New Mexico, in a town called Tres Piedras, and we are the largest off-grid community in the United States. Michael Reynolds purchased about 640 acres of land out here, and he decided to turn it into a community. He originally was just giving properties away to people to build on, and that's not legal because it wasn't zoned in that way. So he had to turn it into a legal subdivision and basically subdivide the lots. So Michael Reynolds is the developer of the community, and when he developed it, he decided that there would be 130 lots of space, and that then could be developed on for an earthship. And of those 130 lots, we have developed about 85. So there's about 45 lots left to be developed still. And all of the buildings that we are seeing today were built by Earthship Biotecture, and they are all nightly rentals. So they can be rented if you just want to come and stay here in Tres Piedras and kind of get the Earthship experience. But they are also all for sale. So that you can look up on our website as well if you're interested in actually purchasing. In the community, we do have a legal HOA that is recognized by the County of Taos, and there's bylaws and a board of directors. So that's, we really are trying to abide by the laws and regulations in the community. There's, this big assumption that because we're off grid, we're kind of these rebels that are just doing whatever we want here in the desert. But all of our buildings are legally permitted, and we are following all of the guidelines set by the state of New Mexico and the County of Taos. So great. I am going to let Candy start the first video, and then we're going to pause for any questions regarding the first video, which we're going to see the Phoenix first.
And just real quick, for the remaining plots of land that are there, they have earthships on them, or no, you're free to build on them?
Yeah, great question, Candy. So they are all empty, and they range from 1 to 3 acres in size, and they range in price from $35,000 to $100,000 in price. But yeah, you basically can buy a plot of land, and then the company does have to at least build your shell and get your systems in it. So you would hire us to do that. That's actually like in the bylaws. Mm-hmm. But Michael Reynolds is just building on all of our available lots left because he does technically still own those lots. And that's what we turn our buildings into, these nightly rentals that we're going to do a tour of, and they end up being for sale. So,
and for those that are kind of tuning in online, they're watching on YouTube, Okay, do you just in a couple sentences explain what an earthship is?
Yeah, I do go over it in the videos, but yeah, definitely. So earthships encompass 6 basic principles, and those principles include building with natural and repurposed materials. We mainly build with tires, used automobile tires. But we also use aluminum cans, bottles, plastics, cardboard, reclaimed metal from vehicles and appliances. The next principle is that we are utilizing natural solar and thermal properties to heat and cool the building so that the building's at a comfortable temperature. The next property is that we are using all renewable energy sources. So here we typically use solar panels just because we get over 300 days of sunlight a year for our electricity, but we also have used wind power, and Mike has actually built some wind turbines as well. And then the next 3 principles are relating to our water. So we have water harvesting. We collect all of the rainfall and snow melt from the roof, and it is stored in cisterns that are just buried into the back berm of the building. And then that water comes into the household. And from there, we can use the water and everything like that. And that leads us to the 5th principle, which is contained sewage. So with that, we're using our water, you take a shower and do those kinds of things, wash your hands, and that becomes gray water. And so the gray water, then we use that and we water our planter beds with that, our interior planter cells. And then it's filtered and pumped back to the toilet. And then we flush our toilet with it. And then from there, it's black water, and we pump it outside. And we do send it to a traditional septic tank. As I mentioned, we're trying to abide by the rules. And the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency of New Mexico, has verified and is really on board with what we're doing for the black water treatment. So we pump it out to a traditional septic tank that's buried, in the front yard. But then from there, there's an overflow, and it goes to what we call a black water botanical cell. And so that is where you can grow like trees out in the front yard. And that's super important here because we are in the desert. We're at like 7,000 feet elevation, and it's a very dry climate here. And so the only thing that's really growing around us is sagebrush. And so there are these like oases of trees, in people's front yards. That's really cool. And then the final principle that is also kind of linked to water is food production. So in our interior greenhouses, we are trying to grow as much food as possible, and, use that for our everyday consumption.
Perfect.
Those are the 6 principles for an earthship. And I'll touch on examples of those and where they actually are occurring in the houses that we see.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to go ahead, and you said which one are we starting with?
Phoenix, please.
All right, here we are at the Phoenix Earthship. We are going to go inside and look around, and I will point out some of the main features. This building was started in the early 2000s, and it was really Michael Reynolds' main response to a building he built that was very extravagant but wasn't very functional. So this is like all of our extravagant features. So as we come in here, we walk straight into a greenhouse. You can see lots of amazing plants. We have grapes growing over here. And then on this side, we have a clemency tree, which is a form of orange. It's in the kumquat family. And then you'll also hear our fountains running, and we have koi fish ponds. We use koi now because we're not trying to eat the fish, but Mike did used to use this as a tilapia pond, and we would actually catch the fish and eat them. There's just a small sitting area out here in the greenhouse, so you can really enjoy the humidity and the water feature out here. And then we just have all kinds of plants growing. A lot of ornamental plants like papyrus, and then geraniums. And then down this hall is just more greenhouse, with more plants growing and lots of interesting things. It really is beautiful. All right, and then coming into the living space, you'll see that there's that division between the greenhouse and the living space, and that's really to help with the temperature control of the building. But we do have more plants in here as well, and Michael Reynolds really wanted to add a lot of plants to this building and really have it be almost 50% of growing space. So we have here, we have our fridge, and it's kind of hidden behind this detail, this cabinetry detail to make it blend in. And then we have a fully functioning stove and range. And then we have our kitchen sink. So with the sink, this brings us to some of our Earthship principles, which Michael Reynolds is doing a talk on about the Earthship concept and history, so you may have attended that. But I'll quickly go through those Earthship principles. So here we have water harvesting and contained sewage. So the water harvesting principle is that we collect all of the rainwater from our roof and also the snow melt, and we store that in the cisterns that we have buried in the back berm of the building. And then when we're ready, we have a filtration process that I will show you guys here in a moment that filters the water and makes it suitable for use in the household. And then we have this small spigot here, which is just for drinking water. So it goes through an extra filtration process. And then once you use your water to shower, do your laundry, wash your hands, things like that, it is called gray water. And that gray water we use multiple times. And so the first use is it goes and waters all these planters that you're seeing. And so with the gray water, we're just trying to make sure that we're utilizing it to its full potential. Once it's done in the planters, we filter it and pump it to the toilet tanks. And then we can flush our toilets with it. And then when we're done with that, it's considered black water. And what we do with it then is we pump it out to different planter beds on the exterior of the building, which we'll point out a little bit later. All right, let's go look at, we just have our dining space over here, and you can see that these walls are made with glass bottles and aluminum cans. These are the bottoms of aluminum cans. And these, this is another Earthship principle, which is building with natural and repurposed materials. So the Earthships, originally Michael Reynolds, when he first was developing the concept, he was really building a lot with aluminum because aluminum was not recyclable back in the early 70s. But now we've adapted and we are using other materials such as tires. That's our main building block for the Earthship. And if we go back in this hallway, this is just like a storage hallway for our rental units. So they store like their cleaning supplies and things back here, but you'll see here are these tires, and typically we would have this as a finished wall. However, this building, since this isn't a living space and we can close it off, it's not a big deal. But yeah, typically these would be all finished and covered in plaster and you wouldn't even see the tires. While we're back here, you can also see that this is our water filtration system. So it is gravity, the water from the cisterns is gravity fed to this point, and it goes to there's a small filter before the pump, and then we can then pump water to the household. So these outlets are for the household. And there's a filter over this, and we cover them with socks just to prevent any sunlight from getting to it and growing algae. But it's not a big deal if it does grow algae, because these are reusable and cleanable filters, so we can just easily take them out and clean them. But that's just to prevent, you know, extra maintenance that we have to do. So yeah, these filters help filter any impurities out of the water and make it suitable to drink. The final one here is our ceramic filter, and that is what makes the water potable. Awesome. This back hallway, we won't walk through it because again, it is just storage, so not super interesting. And next we'll come to our living room space. So what we have here is, you know, just a comfortable living room, which that kind of encompasses our next principle of having comfortable climate in your house. So the temperature is very stable in Earthships at around 72 degrees Fahrenheit. And we accomplish that with a number of different methods that I'll go over a little more in depth. This shows, Mike really wanted to like create this elaborate area, and this shows the 4 elements of water, fire, earth, because the walls are made out of adobe, and air. So this is kind of an extravagant feature that Mike incorporated. And you can also see that we do have a television right up above the space as well. And over here we have another sitting space, another living room, and you'll see that there is a wood-burning stove. Now, the Phoenix was built, again, in the early 2000s, and to be honest, this building doesn't perform perfectly because of how deep it is, how long it is from north to south. And so that can cause some temperature fluctuations. So we'll go see some other Earthships, and I'll show you how, how deep those buildings are in comparison. And those buildings really perform great. So we just added this wood-burning stove because that stove that you just saw with the waterfall is not actually a heating element. But those are things that we do take into consideration when we're trying to control the temperature of the building. So you will notice that all of our buildings face south, because in the winter we do get pretty chilly here, and we can get to -20 in the nighttime in the winter here. So we face south so that the sun can come in and we can collect all of that solar gain and warm up the building. And aside from this wood-burning stove in the Phoenix, our other Earthships do not have heating elements. There's no propane used for heating the building. There's not wood-burning stoves in the other units. And that's because we've really researched and figured out how to make these buildings perform. And the most important thing, again, is, that you are facing south if you're living in a cold climate, so that you can get that temperature to come into your building from the sun. And then in the summer, which I'll point out this in one of our newer buildings that has the cooling tubes, what we have are skylights, and they're in the greenhouse space, so the hot air can rise out. But then we have what we call cooling tubes, which are metal culverts that go through the back berm, and they draw in cool air. And then it kind of creates this natural convection. So it's pulling cool air in and pushing the hot air out. But again, I'll show you that in a building where we have that functioning. Awesome, and then here's more plants. You can see Mike really is bringing all the plants he can. And then we'll come to our first bathroom in the house. And this one, I always say is like the most photographed bathroom. I remember before I even came to Earthships that I'd seen this bathroom, a picture of it, like hundreds of times all over the internet. And so again, these water harvesting principles that I talked about, we harvest the water and then we then can use the contained sewage to help us with getting the toilet flushed as well. So then we're going to come to the master bedroom. And underneath the master bedroom, they built a little loft space. And this is noticeably colder down here. We're underground, and there's no sunlight that's going to be coming in here. So we use it just as storage, as a closet, but it could be a root cellar, or it could be, a photography space for individuals with those needs. But since we just have this as a nightly rental unit, we use it as storage. And then up here we just have the master bedroom. Again, Mike was really into making this as extravagant as possible. He used natural dyes to turn the wall this kind of red color. This turquoise color is just acrylic paint, but we do have natural methods of dyeing the adobe. And then here we just have an entrance for this unit and a little sitting area. And this space does help with controlling the temperature as well, because you have a separation between your front door and your entrance into your living space. So if you keep both of those closed, then you're not letting in the temperature from outside. And then if you're entering, you close it behind you and then you open this door to come inside your house. It's gonna help regulate that temperature and keep it consistent. And then we're going to come back through this hallway, which just connects back to the living space. And we'll go see one more bedroom on the western side of the building. So back through the kitchen, there's another hallway. And here is the other bedroom in the unit. And then here we have the bathroom. And, you know, again, a nice bathtub that was molded out of stone. And how we rent, this building is on Airbnb. It is a nightly rental. And we can rent it either as the whole building, we can rent it as the east end or the west end. And so currently we're in the west end, and that would just include the bedroom and this bathroom. The east end includes those 2 bedrooms we saw, the bathroom and that kitchen space. So the west end does not have access to the kitchen, so it's just like a regular hotel. But the rates are on our website at earthshipglobal.com, and you can check those out there. But let's go scope out the outside as well. All right. Oh, and I didn't show you this sitting area over here. So again, another sitting area and another airlock space so that the temperature is staying consistent. All right, let's head out. Doors. Should we? I think it may just be a bit windy out here today. So you'll see over here we have our Earthship chicken coop. We have lots of chickens here and 1 rooster, lots of hens and 1 rooster. Oh, no, not coming in. Oh, back it up. So the chickens provide fresh eggs, and our renters get to eat that when they do come for their nightly rental. And the chickens have this nice long run where they can run and play. And then here we have a little fire pit for anyone that's staying if they want to have a fire outside. And we have a nice little patio area over here where you can grill out. Oh, the metal. Yeah, so up top, if you look and see all these like weird shaped panels, you can see that this metal was, you know, it doesn't look like anything you would find at your local hardware store. And that's because you're not going to find it at your local hardware store. Mike Reynolds went and cut off metal pieces from old appliances, cars, all kinds of metal that he could find. And we cut it into shapes, and some of them we spray painted just to get it to color that we wanted. But you know, that's really taking the garbage and trying to use every piece of it that we can, because the dumpster, if you go there, the landfill, it's just full of appliances that people have discarded, and what are they going to do with it there? So we're trying to take as much as we can out of the landfill. So that concludes the tour of the Phoenix, but let's go check out some of our other buildings.
So that is the longest video that we filmed because the Phoenix is such a large building, and also because I was trying to cover all of those points. Also, Candy, I don't know, there seemed to be a delay. It probably was just my internet because honestly, the internet in Earthships isn't perfect, but I don't know if that was on your end as well.
No, mine was real smooth. It might just be because I'm streaming it to you guys.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as that's great. Okay. I just wanted to be sure. And Candy, you stayed at the Phoenix, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the board and I stayed at the Phoenix. It was incredible.
Awesome. Yes. As I mentioned in in that building, it can get a little colder, and that's it, again, it's a custom Earthship. It's not one of these standard models that Mike has designed and has really, like, we've built it multiple times. So then we can prove, like, okay, this works for any climate or whichever temperature we need it to be at. So the Phoenix is custom. So it's just everything that Mike kind of dreamed of, he wanted. And you'll notice, like, when I was walking through, there was all this tile work, all the doors, like everything there is handmade here. We have sculptors and we have carpenters, and everything is custom made here. So that's also something that Mike tries to do, is really, make it so that all of our buildings are made from start to finish by us, and he's giving people jobs locally and within the company and not outsourcing it. And then I did want to mention that, I'm going to only be showing you buildings that are going to be heating themselves, because that is what we need here. We get really cold, so we do need to have buildings that are going to stay warm in the winter. So that's what you're going to see. However, we have built in over 40 countries, and so we do have tropical designs as well. So the tropical designs obviously don't need to face south to heat themselves when they're in the northern hemisphere, but we have designed like circular buildings and things like that. So we're not just thinking about the climate here. We've also built in countries that are a lot colder than us. We've built in Canada and things like that. And what we end up doing is just adjusting and adding more insulation and things like that. So just so you know, an Earthship, people always kind of have that question, can an Earthship be built in my location? And it can, we can adjust it to whatever the needs are for your area. You probably get more rainfall in most locations than where we are. So, you might need less cistern storage, because what we do is we try and collect all the rainfall that we can. And so we have as many cisterns as possible on our buildings. So again, just it can happen anywhere in the world. So just keep that in mind. And then I also just wanted to note that this was filmed in March. So like when we walked out to see the chicken coop and the outside, there was a Russian olive tree and it looked pretty dead, but I promise it's not dead. It was just winter or early spring. And so it was not full of leaves and full of olives. But it typically is, when it's appropriate time of year. So that's all the points I had. Did anyone have any questions? No? Great. Well, Candy, we can go on to Truchas.
Okay. Actually, what's the square footage of the Earthship? Ish.
The Phoenix, that one, sorry, I don't know. I'm going to estimate that it's about 3,500 square feet, but that is just an estimation on my part. I don't know exactly.
It's huge. It's huge.
Yeah, that one's a huge building. Gosh. And the next one we're going to see, Truchas, is pretty big too.
All right, welcome to Truchas. This is one of our nightly rentals as well. This one goes for about $210 a night on Airbnb, or you can book it with our receptionist. And again, you can check that out on our website. You can see, again, we're entering into a greenhouse space. We've got lots of banana trees here, and in fact, this one's fruiting. And then the first room that you come into is the living room and kitchen space. And so again, you know, we have all the traditional amenities that you would have in a conventional home. We have a television here. We've got a refrigerator and a full stove and sink. This is the back hall that connects to the guest bedroom. There is the washing machine running, so it's going to be a little noisy. But again, we have a full washer and dryer too, so you can still have your creature comforts while you're living off-grid. Here's the first bedroom. It's, you know, the guest bedroom with the guest bath. Our rental staff is getting it ready for the next renter, so that's why the bed's not made up yet. And then before we go into the master bedroom, I wanted to point out our the heating and cooling system with the natural convection. Well, this is the cooling system. So up above we have these ropes that are connected to our vent boxes, and the vent boxes are just counterweighted on the other side. So typically you'd have the rope in the cam cleat up there and it would be closed. And then if you want to open it, you just pull it out of the cam cleat and then it'll open up naturally with that weight. So when it's hot, you want to keep that open, and we do open it even when it's a little chilly, just because our greenhouses do produce a lot of humidity and get very warm, and the plants like to have some of that natural breeze. And then here's our master bedroom. So again, you know, very traditional bedroom, and then the master bath. And then we have all these built-in closets back here. And so I'll show you guys that cooling tube, which is in the closet. So this building has multiple cooling tubes. This is just one of the ones in this bedroom. And you can see it's open because we are starting to warm up and we're wanting to get some refreshing air in here, a little bit cooler. And then in here we just have the master bathroom, which is ready for a renter. And this unit just has the shower. And then I did want to show you guys, this is a reception cell. So this helps us filter that gray water that I was talking about at the Phoenix. So when you shower or do laundry, this reception cell is specifically for this bathroom, so it's for this shower. So the gray water will come into this box and it filters out any of the like impurities and soap and things like that. And that's just a copper bottom with some holes drilled into it. And then that helps filter a little bit for it to then go to the planter, the exterior planters as well. Or the greenhouse planters, I guess is what I mean. And then True Chest does have a nice little patio area as well out this side. can really see lots of the whole, like a lot of other buildings in the community. And so, you know, while I am showing you these nightly rentals, we do have about 80 or so structures that are privately owned and have residents living in them, whether that be full-time or they may use it only part-time, but you can see lots of other homes in the community too. Entrance where we came in at. Here you can see how we get our renewable energy. So that is one of our other principles, renewable energy source. So we use solar panels here in New Mexico, and that's just because we have over 300 days of sunlight in where we're located. So we size our system, and based off of what we find out our needs are, we get that number of solar panels, and then we store the energy in batteries. We've been using flooded lead acid a lot, but we've actually upgraded and started using some lithium ions as well. And you know, that is something that originally we were doing a lot of DC electricity, but now we invert all of our power, and we can use AC, which is what most Americans are used to with charging their devices. All right. I think that concludes our tour of Chess. So we will head to one more building, and I'll see you guys there.
Great. So again, I have a couple points I just want to mention, and then I'll take any questions. So in the planters, Mike really tries to utilize certain plants. He loves putting banana trees in because he just thinks it's really extravagant to be growing bananas in the desert. But there's some other plants that are super important for like the soil restoration of the planters. I don't specifically work with the plants, but that's something that they take into consideration. Some of the main plants we do typically put in are aloe, geranium, rosemary, and bananas, of course. But, you know, that doesn't mean that you're limited in the plants that you can put in your greenhouse. It's just, you do want to obviously take into consideration what your greenhouse needs, and, you know, also like how much sunlight each zone is getting and things like that. And we have plant specialists here that kind of work that out. And then another thing I wanted to mention was about the cooling tubes. So we're not going to see the backs of any of the buildings. Basically, the backs are just it's just dirt around it. And I mentioned this in the next video. You know, we are not buried underground, contrary to popular belief. We are just on undisturbed earth. And then we bring in a lot of dirt to help with the temperature, to really hold temperature a lot better. And so what we see basically on the back is just a mound of dirt, and then there's a cooling tube sticking out. And so with the cooling tubes, you know, it is just using natural convection. And I think a lot of people kind of question the validity of is it actually going to work? I mean, I know I did when I first came here, and I did the academy program. And I kind of thought, you know, is that actually going to work? And it, you know, in school, of course, you learn about convection and that, but you don't necessarily see it in play. You don't actually, they don't necessarily show you an example of it working or how it actually functions. At least where I went to school. So, it really does work. It pulls this cool air in and then it flows out through that greenhouse, that vent box that I showed you guys. And, if you have all of your doors closed, there is a little window above your doors that you can open as well. If you're trying to really keep the heat out, you want basically a division between you and that greenhouse. And so you would keep all the doors closed, but you just open this little window, we call it a transom window, above your door. And then it pulls that air through. So, I mean, and Mike always says there's like kind of an unlearning you have to do when you're thinking of these concepts. And I think, this summit is doing a great job of just that. Is, society kind of teaches you that you have to do things a certain way and you have to unlearn a lot of that. You have to think outside the box and really realize like, okay, I can have a building that sustains me, or I can, use alternate materials, things like that. So those were my points that I wanted to cover. Does anyone have any questions?
No, not yet. I'm curious to see this final one.
Yeah, so the final one's the encounter. I'll mention it in the video, but this one is our most economic model. And this one is just a simpler building to do. And the last one that we saw, Truchas, it was a global model. And we still build the global model. We built, I think, about 5 of them within the community. And then Mike designed the encounter model, and we have built 4 so far, and now he's on to his newest model called the Unity.
Oh,
and
wow.
we're still under construction with that one. So we haven't finished it yet, but it'll be a nightly rental as well.
And is the Unity just more economical as well?
It's about the same price as the encounter.
Okay.
Mike just kind of actually went back to an older design that he had called the U module. And it's basically, I'll show you in the next video with the encounter, and it was kind of probably a little hard to tell with the global model we just saw, but they're squares. So it's just a tire wall on 3 sides, and it's just a square. The Unity is rounded. It's like U shapes.
Okay.
For each room using tires. So he's kind of, I think he likes that design. He likes things to be circular. I think he really thinks it's aesthetically pleasing, and he's kind of into the whole Fibonacci sequence and things like that. So he takes that into account when he's designing these as well. So you'll see in the next one, it shows it how it's a better square shape.
All right, here we are at our final building, the Encounter. This one is after the global model design. Mike was kind of looking to design a more simple model that didn't have as many details, and so this is our most economic model that we have to date. So let's go in and check it out. Again, this is a nightly rental, and so someone did just check out, and we do have another guest checking in shortly. So you will see that there is some cleaning needing to be done. So you can see as we walk in, again, we're in the greenhouse space, and we can see a lot of Inca berries or ground cherries, however you refer to them as, growing up and vining. And these are edible, which is also one of the principles, which is food production. So we do try to grow as many plants as possible in our structures so that we can sustain ourselves. So look at this big, juicy berry. So tasty. It's like a shot of vitamin C. So I did want to point out, because this building does demonstrate really well that contained sewage concept that we spoke about earlier. So over here is the bathroom, which is the shower and a sink space. Oh no, this is the toilet. I'm sorry, I have it backwards. My mistake. We'll go to the other end and I'll show you. So that's the toilet, that's our final location. So this bathroom down here is the shower and there's a sink. So with the shower, again, when you shower, you're producing gray water. So then that gray water is going to naturally flow into the planters, and you can see there's just a wall really dividing the shower and this planter bed. And underneath, which you can't see right now, are these pipes where the water flows, and they're PVC pipes that have holes drilled into them to let that water out. And that pipe is just sloped at a quarter inch per foot. So it just naturally is angled and flowing all throughout these plants. And then it ends up here, which you can see there's a filter. I mean, it's kind of hard to see because there's some plants growing up, but then there's also a pump. From here is then where it ends up back at the toilet. So, once we're done in the greenhouse space, you can see that we have 2 bedrooms. It's a little different from Truchas in that we have a bedroom on each side and the living room kitchen in the middle. And then this space is our power system. So as I was talking before about how we have these batteries and it's a traditional, we invert the power so it's, conventional power, what you would kind of use to charge your devices. So here we have our inverter and our charge controller, which help regulate the power to make sure we're not hurting the batteries. We have some breakers. These are the DC breakers. So we have a few things that run on DC electricity, direct current, and then these are the AC breakers. Most of the building runs on alternating current, which is what we're most used to. And then here in the floor, maybe I can't open it, maybe it's from this side. Here in the floor is where we keep our batteries. This may not work to open. We're gonna have to edit that out. Oops. And then next to the power organizing module is again the water organizing module, and you saw the washer and dryer. So we have, in this cabinet, we just have the system that I showed you at the Phoenix. Again, a filter, a pump, and more filters for household use. And then I did just want to point out that we do have a hot water heater. Now, we do use solar. We do use solar for a lot of our hot water heating needs, but that propane heater is just a backup in case we're getting a cloudy day or you need a lot of hot water for some reason. So that is propane heated, and we do also cook with propane, but we do have a specific regulation within our community that states that you cannot use propane to heat your home. So yes, propane is not the most sustainable way to cook or heat, but the amount that we use is very minuscule, and really what we're spending in a whole year is probably what most people spend in a month to heat their homes. And we're always open to alternatives as well. We're not strictly saying that we're only using propane forever. And then here we have the living room and the kitchen space. again, as I mentioned, as we were entering this building, this is our more economical model. So this space is a little bit smaller than what you had at Truchas, what I showed you, but it's still very comfortable and it meets all of the needs that someone might have. This fridge is direct current DC fridge. So it just is a little bit, has more insulation, and it's running on DC electricity. Here we have our cooling tubes again. So in the summer, this one will open up that door to get that cool air in here. You will notice that this wall isn't perfectly plumb. It's not straight up and down. There is an angle here. And we do that because we are battering our tires. So this is all tires behind here. And the tires, we do a course at a time, so a layer of tires at a time. And then we batter back about 1.5 inches each course, leading up to the very top. So between the top and the bottom, there's about a foot difference in this angle. And this helps to prevent, because contrary to popular belief, we're not buried into the ground, we don't dig into the ground, we're on flat earth, and then we berm around it. So we bring in dirt to berm around, and that again helps with our temperature stability. So we do this to kind of help prevent from the berm from pushing on that wall. We have had structural engineers evaluate our plans, and what they did is they requested that we include a concrete buttress, which you can see here. We just incorporate it into the wall, and that will also help with the structural stability of the building. But in general, you know, that was the only real change that we needed to make for our structural engineer. And then over here we just have our other bedroom. So that pretty much concludes this encounter tour. I do just want to quickly go through those 6 principles again so you are aware of what encompasses an earthship. The first is building with natural and repurposed materials. So again, we're building with tires, cans, bottles, plastics, cardboard, you know, things that would just end up in the landfill. And then number 2 is dealing with our energy. So, you know, we all use energy pretty much every day to survive, and we are trying to do that in the most sustainable way possible, and so we use reusable energy. Here we use solar panels most often. Number 3 has to do with the thermal solar heating and cooling, which again is that comfortable climate of the building. So we realize that if we are facing south, if we're a certain depth from north to south, and you know, if we can create this natural convection, that we can keep the buildings at a comfortable 72 degrees Fahrenheit year round. And then the last 3 principles really have to do with water. And so again, we're collecting water from the roof and storing it in cisterns, and we're just harvesting our water for use in the household. Number 2 relates to the contained sewage, which we just did a walkthrough of. Whenever you use your water, it waters your plants, and then you can flush your toilet with it. And then the third water harvesting kind of overlap principle is the food production. So we are trying to grow as much food as possible here in our earthships. Cool. Oh, awesome. Well, thank you for joining us today, and we hope to see you here in the future.
So I just wanted to bring up 2 points. So as I mentioned with propane, we do utilize propane for heating our water back up on-demand hot water heaters, and then also for cooking. So I did mention at the beginning that we are the largest off-grid community in the United States. And I just like to be transparent that there are a couple ways that we're not 100% off-grid. And so propane is one of those ways. However, as I mentioned, we do have a specific bylaw stating you can't use propane to heat your home. You have to be utilizing those Earthship principles. And then also Wi-Fi. We have a local provider, TaosNet, provides Wi-Fi for us. So I just like to let everyone know that. And then you might have noticed that that building looked just a little different. I mean, aside from it being the Encounter model, it was maybe decorated a little differently than what Mike typically does. That building that we just saw, the Encounter, is actually privately owned by someone else, and they pay our company to manage it as a nightly rental for them. So that is something that happens. We have a couple of those types of nightly rentals where people purchase an Earthship and then they can't live here right now, or they have plans to like move in a few years here, so they just have us manage it for them as a nightly rental. So that one is not for sale anymore, but the Phoenix and Truchas, as we were talking about earlier, those are owned by the company, and those are for sale, and we just have them as a nightly rental until they sell. And we do have 6 nightly rentals here within the community, and of those 6, 3 of them are owned by Earthship Biotecture, and the other 3 are owned by private individuals. So those were my points. Do you guys have any other questions?
If you buy a plot of land and you're going to build an Earthship on it there in the community, there's packages where you guys can help with the build, or are you on your own, or?
Great question. Yeah, so we do, typically what we do is we build the shell and systems, and that is actually part of joining the community. Is you have to hire the company to at least get your building started and with the appropriate systems working. And that's because, you know, we just want to make sure that the building is going to stay standing. Basically, we want to make sure that it's done right and that you are happy with your home. But we pretty much, and you can hire the company to finish, but pretty much we just recommend that the individual hire private contractors and Taos to come and do the finishes. And that's how we pretty much do it when we travel as well. We go to a place for 4 weeks, and basically we try to get it enclosed with the systems working, the plumbing and electrical, within that 4-week time frame. And then we have the client, we recommend they hire local contractors to finish the building, because there's nothing super specific about Earthship finishes, and that's not going to impact the performance of your building. So it saves money pretty much.
You help get the angle of like the windows for the greenhouse, and you do all that. Okay.
Exactly. Mike has been going to vertical greenhouse windows though. Now he thinks that it doesn't really impact the amount of sunlight coming in. So that's why he's back to vertical.
Okay. How about Cindy, Patricia? Do you guys have any comments, questions?
Awesome.
Thanks,
It always just blows my mind. I love what you were saying about unlearn. You know, I think I've been an environmentalist since I was like 12, but still we live in a society so dependent, and so we're so fragile, and you know, it's that I love that. That was beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, very true. And I mean, you know, even just the fact that everyone is just so consume focused, you know, you just like are focused on buying things and having more stuff and things like that. And you were talking about that at the beginning, you know, how you're like, oh, I don't want these new earrings because it's like, I don't want them in my house.
Right.
Like, you know, just another aspect of that too. I see Patricia has a question here. If the windows are vertical, where are the panels located? That's a great question. So It depends on each individual client and each house we build, but Michael has been incorporating them onto the roof sometimes. So you can just get like a racking system and the panels can go on the roof. And sometimes he has them on the exterior walls. So they won't go above the windows like what we saw at Truchas. That's, the preferred method is above the windows, but there's these wing walls that curve out around that kind of help to keep the berm from, just kind of spilling out onto your front yard. We build these exterior concrete walls and he has a special system that he's been doing where they mount onto that wall. I'm going to put mine on the roof just because it for maintenance purposes, and I want to be able to access them to clean them off and things like that. And it's just more economical to put them on the roof. So that's how I'll do that. But great question. Awesome.
Anything else, guys? Questions, comments?
It's just amazing.
I really appreciate you guys coming here and being interested in earthships. And like I said, those are all nightly rentals. So feel free to come and check them out anytime.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And just a reminder to anybody listening, we will have a scholarship to send somebody to the Earthship Academy. And so the best way for you to find out about that is sign up for the newsletter at greenhopeproject.org. And we're going to roll out the contest details. It's an essay contest, and whoever wins, we will send to Taos, New Mexico for approximately a 4-week academy. And so that will be on us. The only condition is whatever you learn, you got to bring back and let us live through you vicariously. We want to live through you, and we want to see blogs, and we want to see posting and things like that. And you just do a couple presentations to tell El Pasoans what you learned. Mm-hmm. So again, thank you guys for coming. Lauren, thank you for joining us on a weekend. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Have a good day, guys.